Okay, and we are live. What's up, all you cool cats and kittens? It's MakerCast episode 23. For better or worse, I'm your host, Blitz City DIY, Liz. I'm joined today by Sophie Wong, Ruiz, Brian Locke, Timon, I don't know your last name, I'm so sorry, and Dave Darko. So we're going to be talking about our projects we're working on, the craziness that was 2020, and our hopes, dreams for 2021. Up first in chatting, before we got started, Nay had volunteered to go first, so I will give him most of the screen to tell us what he's been up to.
Sure. Hey, folks. Can everybody hear me okay?
Sound good.
All right. You got to check that first. Yeah. So my name is Noah Ruiz. I've been working with Adafruit since 2012. One of the kind of fun milestones this year was we did quite a few projects. So 300 learn guides, which is kind of quite a lot. So yay, I get to kind of think about that. I've kind of been on vacation since like the weekend of Thanksgiving here in the States. So I've had some time to kind of work on some new things. So that's kind of what I want to share today. Let's see if this shares. There we go. Let's see if we can do a full screen thing. All right. So here's a little bit of the things that I've been doing. It has to do a lot with wood. So trying to get into the woodworking stuff. So kind of the first project that really got me inspired to get into woodworking was the shelf that was made for Liz. We kind of put this together. It's the goal of it was to kind of make it so that it fits the xylophone project that we worked on together. So it was a really simple design, but it really inspired me because like putting it together in CAD's like kind of easy, but then seeing somebody actually build the thing out of real pieces of wood is kind of inspiring. So that kind of set the seed for kind of making my own projects with wood in mind. So then I started working on sort of the hello world of woodworking, I think is like a crate. So I wanted to do something kind of that I really like to do, and that's playing around with user parameters in Fusion 360. And that's just a way to kind of make it easy to kind of make minor adjustments to a design. So as I was putting this together, I thought it'd be really cool to visually see how a design can adapt by just doing micro adjustments. Like you can't quite do this in Fusion 360 as this is. So what I ended up doing was like just screen recording this thing, like, and then just manually changing these values. Like who does that? But I figured this was a really kind of powerful way to visually show how a design can be kind of flexible and adapt just by changing some values. So that was kind of a fun experiment. And it taught me, you know, how to kind of structure woodworking stuff. So then the first kind of project that kind of fell in my lap was this kind of traditional thing we do every year. Our family puts together a fake fireplace. Normally we do it out of cardboard. We moved on to poster board. And now this year we got our hands on some wood and we thought we'd make it out of wood. Just real quick, where did we get the wood? It was like a spare bed we were going to throw out. So we figured we'd reclaim the wood, and I put some measurements together and designed a really simple kind of fireplace using, you know, the measurements that I got out of the wood that we had on hand. And I was able to put together some simple plans, really simple plans. And then, of course, I added some NeoPixels because that's what one does. So let's take a quick look at kind of building it. So Brandy, who is my sister-in-law, Pedro's my brother, that's his wife. She wanted to build it. So she got to kind of cut all the wood, and I just kind of did the measurements. I provided the blueprints, and we kind of tag teamed this one together. So it was a lot of fun to put together, just some quick footage of us putting it together, but really gratifying to kind of design something in CAD. Like the scale of it is like something I'm not used to because I'm used to like these little small 3D printed things. So that was a lot of fun. So learnings, what did I learn? I guess the real big kind of takeaway for me on this one was using the arrange feature in Fusion 360. It just allows me to make these really simple plans. So I put together a layer by layer tutorial on how I used it, and hopefully folks get a kick out of that one if they want to do something similar. Another thing that I found that was really useful is to get a hold of a battery powered nail gun, because that really saved a lot of time. Like instead of having to hammer these nails into this wood or worry about splitting wood with screws, the battery powered nail gun was a nice thing to invest into. So I'm glad I did that. Also, of course, parametric design. Because it was parametric, right near when we were building it, we ran into this issue where not all of the boards are the same size. You think they would be, but of course they're not. So because it was a parametric design, I was able to quickly kind of adjust the design and see exactly how long we needed to cut the kind of baseboard so that it would all fit. So I have some links here that I'll probably share in the YouTube video description of where you can download the CAD files and check out the layer by layer video. Okay, so then after that one, I figured, all right, it's time to make like a sign with NeoPixels on it, because come on, you got to do that. So I got inspired by just looking at Christmas lights around the area. I walk my dog. That's why I'm out there. So I saw these really nice lights, and I got the idea, like, maybe I should make a wooden sign that's outdoors. So that was kind of the next thing. Kind of the real thing that I'm really proud about this one was like coming up with this mounting mechanism for the NeoPixel strips. So it needed to be a parametric pattern. So that's totally built into it. It's got to be weather resistant, so probably hot glue. And I wanted to make it chainable so I can keep adding onto it in the scales. And then it's got, of course, a press fit type thing. So the silicone sheathing of the NeoPixel is able to kind of press fit and has this nice tight fitting. So they stay taut when this thing's like secured to a piece of wood. And right now I see it as like a non-destructive way of mounting the NeoPixels, because normally you have to like hot glue it or do something that you might have to permanently stick it on there. But right now it's easy to take it apart, which is nice. At some point I'll probably have to put the hot glue so that, it makes it more weather resistant. But that's the holder. And then here it is kind of in CAD land, changing around the pixel density, changing up the spacing of the pixels, how many holders, how many strips, that sort of thing. So making it so that it's parametric was like just the thing, because I do plan to add more pixels. Right now it's a pretty low density NeoPixel strip matrix. It's just the 12 by 12, but I think to make it scalable in the future won't be that hard, because I can just swap out and just wire more strips if I need to. But this is something that I'd like to do kind of like a V2, so they actually kind of snap fit, as opposed to kind of like they just kind of stagger on top of each other right now, and you just kind of screw them into this piece of wood. So that's what I got there. And then this is just kind of showing like how I've been documenting the building, the wood cutting. So I'm using these Snapchat spectacle glasses, and I don't really recommend them, but like that's kind of the best way I think to like kind of capture this sort of thing, like hands-free. It only records 10 seconds, but you can like kind of piece together and edit. Like if you like to edit, but check it out. It's not too bad. But just kind of using this as a way to kind of see how you built the thing, and seeing what went wrong, hand placement, how did you clamp the thing, that sort of thing, I think is interesting to document. So I have a full like 4-minute video edited on my Instagram if folks want to check that out. But here I'm just kind of showing like a minute of it. Okay, the journey continues. So I have a learn guide in progress for the LED sign, and some of the things that I want to build are just tables and benches and that sort of thing. There's also like you can kind of see in the thing, there's like a Euro rack that we're collaborating on. That's kind of neat. And then just more kind of tools and utilities, that sort of thing. And we have a nice garage, so I plan to kind of start expanding that workspace. Yeah, so I think that's it.
So awesome.
Thank you. Where am I?
And it's been so great to see you like be working on the woodworking stuff.
It's kind of your fault.
I know. I know.
So,
and I'm very excited for the Euro rack build.
Me too. It's another one of those things where it's like, I want to design it. It's fun to build, but I'm not going to build my own because I don't have any Euro racks yet.
Right.
No.
I love that you were using pieces of a bed, like those specific slats of wood that you used from the bed. We literally had the same situation where we were getting rid of a bed this year, and we were pulling up those slats of wood that are all like strapped together on the bottom, and we just could not get rid of them. We're like, we know this is going to be useful for something. It's just such a useful part of the way those kinds of beds are made now. Like, I'm just glad to see that you made something really cool out of them. And I'm like, I feel vindicated that we didn't throw those away.
It looked too good to throw away. Like, there's a really nice kind of piece of wood. It was like IKEA bed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, ours is IKEA.
It's the problem of being a maker, right? That everything is potentially useful. So you tend to
I have a whole rack
hoard
over
a
there,
huge
which is
amount.
just used wood that I can't throw away because it's too nice.
It's
I'm
too
looking
good.
in everyone's background, maybe not Noah's so much, but everyone else's background, there's just like stuff. So
Yeah.
much stuff.
This is the good part.
Yeah, you should see what's like right there in my office. You could even see it kind of leaking out.
Expanding.
Yeah, for sure.
Lots of packing materials. Packing materials are so useful.
For sure.
Never have enough.
Well, thank you for sharing
course.
your woodworking. And do we have a volunteer for going next?
I'll go next. I
You'll
have
go
some,
next? Yeah.
things that Noah was talking about kind of reminded me of things that I'm thinking about lately. So yeah, I'll go next.
Okay,
I'm
cool.
short. I don't have very much.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so this year I've been doing a lot of I've done things this year, but definitely my output was not what it usually is because I've just been really distracted and thinking about a lot of other things this year, like a lot of us have been. So I was kind of chugging along for a while, doing some things. I made a robot suit that was used in a music video. That was really cool. I made my Halloween costume was like this witch hat that I made up here with some animated eyes. That was fun. But then I kind of ran out of steam, and I felt like starting new projects kind of just started to feel really overwhelming. So I took a little break, and now I'm kind of climbing back into it with very small projects. So now my focus is like, I just want to do tiny things, little short projects, and I want to practice finishing them again and just get back into the process of having an idea, starting working on it, and then finishing it. And so I'm setting my bar kind of low for the rest of the year, which is really nice. So I've been doing some 3D printing, and I found what I'm kind of interested in doing now is finding ways to make organic shapes with 3D printing, and kind of breaking out of, or I would say like adding to my toolbox some organic ways of creating 3D models and different kinds of shapes, because I feel like sometimes when I'm trying to 3D model something in a parametric program or in a really prescribed program like Fusion 360, I like the detail that it allows me to achieve and the precision that allows me to achieve, but I also feel a little hampered by it. It doesn't feel very free for me, so I wanted to play a little bit with organic stuff. And I attended virtually this year Adobe's Adobe Max, which is their like convention, you could say. So I saw a lot of videos about new Adobe products, and I use a lot of Adobe products in my work. And they have a really cool thing now that you can do. It's Illustrator, which is my favorite Adobe program. It's Illustrator on the iPad. So previously, if I wanted to work in Illustrator, I had to do it with a mouse. I don't have like a Wacom tablet. So I was really excited to find out that you can use your iPad to create vector shapes in Illustrator, and that just feeds so well into my workflow for creating, for a lot of the things I create, because a lot of the projects that I create start in Illustrator, whether it's laser cutting or 3D printing. I start often in Illustrator, and then I have this really cumbersome process of trying to convert everything into Fusion 360. So this is an example of something that I just doodled in Illustrator, and I can now just pull that into Fusion, extrude it, and then I have this really organic print. So I should back up. I also am kind of into like the festive stuff right now. Halloween really got me excited to make like festive things. So I'm making Christmas ornaments, and I don't know if you've seen those like ribbon candy Christmas ornaments. Are usually made out of glass, and they
Yeah.
just look kind of cool. And I thought they were the perfect shape to try something like this. So I literally can take my Apple Pencil. I can just, oh gosh. I can just draw on here like this. Ugh. And
Oh, that's so cool.
you can affect like smoothing and stuff, so you can achieve a really nice line. But it's that easy to get a really solid vector shape. And if you look at the shape when I highlight it, you can see it's all a vector. I'm doing a terrible job of explaining this and showing this
No,
to you.
you're good.
That is so challenging to
You get it,
do
you get it.
with
Yeah.
Fusion. It's really hard to do that with the Bayesian curve in Fusion. Like, oh man, that spline tool is like not fun.
Right, exactly. And so just being able to just draw it like that is so freeing. And I kind of started by doing these by doing typography and just sketching my name and just drawing words. And it's just like so fun to have this kind of hand created effect in this digital fabrication process. I find I'm very inspired by this. So I started doing this, and then I got to this like Christmas idea.
It's
But
a really
that
cool
kind of
process.
was enough to like snap me out of the feeling of like, oh, I don't want to bother starting a project. Oh, blah, blah, blah. I just kind of got like excited about this technique. Like I just needed a new technique to kind of like snap me out of it. And so then I started going back to like what other organic shapes can I create in Fusion. And I haven't played around a lot with the sculpt, like the form sculpting. So I thought I would mess around with that a little bit. And I made a cupcake. And I'm actually so proud of this because this is the first time I've made something that is 3 pieces that print separately and fit together, and they fit together pretty well. And I sculpted this cherry on top, which is, there we go. Started as just a sphere, and I kind of like smushed it into this like cherry shape. And like I'm really proud of that little divot, that runs up the middle of a cherry. This is the first time I ever stretched my brain in that way to figure out how I would manipulate a form like that. And I feel like it actually kind of looks like a cherry.
Totally.
And then, of course,
Yeah.
the frosting is like this smooshy lump of frosting. And I literally, like, this is the most ridiculous thing. I was like in Fusion for like 2.5 hours, like smooshing around frosting. But I needed to focus on it. Like it just felt so good to like really commit to it. I didn't check Twitter that whole time. I didn't have YouTube going in the background. Like I was so focused on this frosting, and I like how it turned out. And then this bottom part, the like cupcake tin part, this was a pretty easy shape for me to create in Fusion. I just did it with a loft basically, and I did 2 basically like 3 steps. So the original shape on the bottom, and then I expanded it a bit up here, and then the final shape is the biggest, and I just created like a little curve along the edge. So but what's interesting about this is when I sliced it, and of course 3D printing. What I want to say about making Christmas ornaments with your 3D printer is December is too late to start 3D printing your Christmas ornaments, because printing this cupcake collectively took like 10 hours. It's just ridiculous. So, but I realized that I could print this tin part, this cupcake tin part in base mode. So, so that really shortened the print time. So this ended up printing in like 50 minutes, and then it just has a little slot that it slides into perfectly, which actually is so satisfying when you snap it in. And then, so my thought was I wasn't even going to bother with glue. I just made a hole to go through the whole thing, so you can kind of tie it together with this loop. And then after I made this whole cupcake and I printed it out and it all fit together, then I realized I could put lights in this. I mean, like, look at all the space you have in here for like a microcontroller and a battery and all kinds of stuff. So that's probably my next phase. And I feel dumb that I didn't even think about that when I was when I was designing it. But I feel like I need an IoT cupcake on my Christmas tree that just like maybe the cherry blinks when something happens. I don't know. But
that'd be really cool.
And then I just want to show one other thing.
Yeah, totally.
My Christmas. I think it's important to share the failures. And I had this idea to do candy canes on my 3D printer. And I thought, oh, I can print essentially just a long rod of half red and half white. And then maybe I can heat it up afterwards and twist it into a candy cane shape. This is like still in my idea of like, how do I get organic shapes and like unusual things that you don't expect to get out of a 3D printer. And I still think this is a good idea, worth pursuing. I'm going to do more work on it. But these are my candy canes right now. They're not really there yet. But this one was my first attempt, which when it came off of the printer looked so great and looked so promising. I mean, it was just straight, but I think the way the filaments are working together was like very candy cane to me. And I was like, oh, this is going to work. I'm so excited. I put it in hot water and I couldn't get it soft enough for it to twist. So then I hit it with my heat gun and I could get it soft enough to twist, but I think there's too much infill in here. It has too much memory and it won't accept my twisting and my shaping. It goes a little bit and then it just rubber bands back. So then I was like, I'm gonna take all that infill out. And I printed this one with no infill, which you can see crushes like a straw. But I think it's somewhere in between here. And I think it's interesting enough. I'm gonna keep pursuing this. I know it's totally weird and silly, but cool. Yeah, how to manipulate your 3D prints afterwards, generally.
That's awesome. And so is that dual extrusion?
No, I'm just doing a filament change.
Oh.
Same thing for these. I don't have dual extrusion on any of the machines that I actually use. I have an ancient MakerBot that has dual extrusion, but it's an ancient MakerBot.
Okay.
It doesn't really count anymore. It's kind of not really usable anymore. So I have to do all of this with just filament change. But I like that actually because you think about it when you're in the design phase. And so I design things like I'm thinking about the color beforehand, what I want it to be, and then I'm extruding to a specific height. I know I'm going to change the filament there, and then I add some relief on top of that to get another color. So this one is 2 filament changes. I don't know if you can see, but in the pattern on the inside, which is also a pattern that I did in Illustrator, those little hash marks, those little like cross hatching.
Yeah.
So there's a color inside that is the light color. So it's like a sandwich. You can kind of see it on the side.
Oh,
so I did it mostly in the light color. And then I switched to the dark color for just a few layers, just for that flat part on the top. And then I switched back to the light color to get that definition on the letters. So yeah, I'm really, really excited about that. Oh, here it is without any of the color change. So you can see how much the color change pops out the features.
Totally.
So yeah, that's what I'm experimenting on these days.
Cool. And that candy cane thing, it reminds me, with the way you're twisting it, I have a friend that's a glass blower, and they'll do the twisting and everything. So I'm almost. Yeah. I know you mentioned the heat gun, but did you have it like kind of like set up like blowing up and kind of going back and forth? That might do something.
That is a really good idea. Yeah, I can try putting my heat gun on its back, pointing up.
Yeah.
I was doing like, heating it. Yeah, that's such a good idea. I was putting it down flat, heating it up, and then turning off my heat gun, and then picking it up. And by then it's already so cool. It's like really resistant. I'm going to try that. That's a great idea. Another thing I thought I could do is maybe print it in the candy cane hook shape. So that I don't have to bend it in that super extreme bend, and just try to achieve the twisting afterwards. So
that's true. Yeah.
So maybe it's a combination of those two things together might work.
Yeah.
Stay
Okay.
tuned.
I'm excited to see where that goes.
I just want
Maybe
to say
by
you
New
really
Year's.
nailed the frosting. That looks so good.
Right? Yeah. The
Really?
cupcake is amazing.
No,
Yeah.
it's perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
I want to print one.
I'm gonna put this up so anyone can print
Okay.
them. And I'll show you the one that I did before I did this one. I did one, and I printed it at 2.2 millimeter layer height, and it looks awful because you can see so much of the. It looks like a topo map. You know, it's got all of the different layers, but this is 0.12, and it looks so much better.
Yeah, that's smoother.
Oh yeah, I'll put this up. Anyone can print these. Oh, last thing.
That's
Sorry,
why
one
it
more
took
thing.
so long.
I'm making sprinkles. I'm making sprinkles out of filament. I'm just cutting
That's cool.
the filament.
Oh, that's cute.
So.
Excellent.
That's nice.
Very festive.
Very nice.
Yes. Thank you. So who would like to go?
I
Dave
would.
like to go next? Okay.
Yeah,
Very
because
good.
I kind of feel the same about all the making of my like what I did the last 2 months. Basically, is I couldn't work on larger projects, and I really wanted to work on something that I can do within 1 day, maybe 2. And I also started to design something that I can 3D print, and then things escalated, and well, I can show the first one with what I started. I made a little hairy Furby, and this one is the first one that didn't go so well. It lost some hair, and it's very patchy. But yeah, I then improved the design, and it got a bit more hairy, and I also painted the eyes and some features of it. And one thing led to another, and I don't know. I think I printed 13 of these small ones. There's a little Chewbacca here. I'm still working on little pork.
These are so weird, and I love them.
Yeah, at first I swapped some filaments, but yeah, then I started to painting them, and painting 3D printed things is so easy with acrylics, and it's kind of a fun thing itself. And I also printed one on my CR10S with a 0.8 millimeter nozzle, and that was a pain to get off the tube. Yeah, if you don't know how to print hairy things, you basically have your thing in the tube, and then the hairs go from your object to the tube. And when the print is done, you have to first cut out the hairy thing, and it comes out looking like a toilet brush, like the. So then you have to bend it with hot air, and then you kind of start hairdressing the thing, and yeah, it's really fun. But yeah, that was getting this one out of the tube was very painful because I stood there with a knife for 20 minutes and tried to get the 0.8 millimeter thick hairs, to get this, get it out of the tube thing. It was a bit painful. I'm never gonna print the big one again. Yeah, and there was another project that I did in October. So I'm doing something forbidden here. I'm talking about something that's longer Totally not away than a month. But it's kind of cool, and I have to share this because I haven't shown it on video. I made a little. Oh yeah, you can see yourself. I didn't think that one
Meta.
But yeah, so it's a tiny Jeffrey's tube. It goes there endlessly. That was pretty fun, and I'm working on a second version where you can print out every color itself and then glue it together and have the little LED section there. So yeah, I was working on this, but it took a bit longer. I actually wanted to send this to America, to my sister, because they hang all the weird Star Wars decorations onto their tree, and I don't have a tree, and this would have been kind of nice to have on there, but yeah, I didn't finish the version, so she has to make do with 1 or 2 Furbies that I sent her. But yeah. So
That is so cool. I would leave my tree up longer just to have that on my tree. Like
Yeah.
my tree would wait for that.
I would get a tree just to hang it on.
Yeah, it was I'm sharing all the files already, but yeah, I definitely have to mount the top LED so it doesn't shine at you, because whenever light shines at you, you always see yourself in the reflection first, and then you see the mirror stuff behind it. And yeah, it has to be closed off, and then when you're standing in the dark, it's really nice to just look into the endless Jeffrey's tube. Yeah,
the pictures
really
look
happy
really
about the
cool.
idea.
Set from Star Wars.
So, tiny thing that I designed to throw in. We have a little. Oh, not my finger.
So cute.
Anyway, we at our hackerspace, it's closed for the light lockdown, but we can still go there and do some construction work. And we're building a tiny aquarium-like resin tank. Is it a tank? No, it's you have the bar top, and we've put some aquarium decorations in there, and I wanted to have a little Game Boy in there as well. So whenever you look at the bar, you can spot something that's cute and cool, and there are fishes and 3D printed things, U-boats, submarines. Yeah, and I made a little nuclear waste bin, and I took the hot air gun to it and then squished it with tweezers and pliers, so they look kind of squished. And then I also painted them that they look like, yeah, they're leaking nuclear waste material, and it's gonna be pretty cool. Yeah, little.
Sounds awesome.
I don't know what the word for it is, but yeah, it's something to look at, definitely.
Terrarium, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. We're putting resin into it, so you have like a 5 to 6 centimeter bar top that's filled with resin, and then there's stuff in there to explore. I don't know, but yeah,
It's a whole new invention.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Oh yeah, okay, gonna be a bit quicker. I also soldered projects that aren't mine, and I made a little PCB that's super simple. The story behind the dude button, that's a 12mm button, is it's also a badge, like a pin. When Alex Glow was presenting a board from SparkFun, there was a boot button, but she misread it for dude. And it kind of looked like dude at first, but when you then looked at it, it was boot. So when she was saying like, "Oh, that's cute, there's a dude button on it," and I was like, "Are you sure that's a dude button and not a boot button?" And then yeah, she read that again and noticed that it was indeed the boot button, and I felt bad because I don't know, I don't want to be responsible for that someone is not happy about a dude button anymore. So I made a dude button PCB. The button really does nothing, but I am very sure that when people press the button that they're going to make dude themselves, so we need sound
for sure.
Anyway, yeah,
that's awesome.
That would have been a huge hit at Chaos Congress.
Yeah, for Chaos Congress, someone made a PCB, by the way, that I ordered and soldered. That's the fairy dust, the mascot of the Congress, and it's made by Thomas Flummerer. And whoop, yeah, there's a coin cell on there and LEDs behind hot glue that shine through the cockpit. So that would be a very nice pin for Congress, but there's no Congress this year. So, but yeah, I wanted to order the boards because they look cool. It's the fairy dust.
They're cool. I've seen those floating around.
I should get some
Socials.
Yeah, I think I have purple ones incoming, so I have to solder them as well. And the last thing that I'm really, really proud of, I soldered 0402 LEDs today.
Oh.
And I made it with my, well, not easy bake oven, but something like a toaster oven. I just threw it in, and those are, he named them Coxy. It's a copy of the something Lixie tubes, I think.
Oh, okay.
They're called, or they normally have LED matrices on there, the LT305 but yeah, Alex made a PCB where the LEDs on there are just, well, on the board, and that was pretty well. The first one was,
Is it pink, Dev?
yeah.
Are the pink LEDs?
Yeah.
You can kind of see as they're like fading, maybe that they're.
Can
pink,
you tile more of those together? Are those like individual modules?
Yeah, you can. I'm not sure how many you can put together, but I think I saw at least 5 to 6 modules of these, and yeah, I just ordered 3 boards of Oshpark to try it, and I knew that that's plenty for me to solder. 0402 is very painful for me.
Yeah, that's
even with the stencil and baking them. The stencil got kind of dirty, and then the first one kind of worked well, the second one not so much anymore, and the third one was, well, I don't really know which one was the second and the third, because they kind of were, yeah, both weirdly broken. I had to fix things like connections, and some LEDs weren't soldered correctly, but yeah.
impressive.
I fixed it. Yay.
Nice. It looks really nice too. The like Nixie tube style.
Can I ask a question about the hairy stuff? So like you have your Furby. Like when did you download the Furby shape, or did you recreate that? And then do you like literally just in Fusion or whatever just draw lines?
Yeah, I started with
all the way up.
with kind of a shape that was a bit more, well, slim. It's basically like a tube, and then I put the eyes on, and I knew that the eyes, as long as they're okay, then it's kind of, yeah, it doesn't matter how long. Yeah, as long as the hairs then are long enough, it should be fine. Yeah, the first one, I really was sitting there. I made a tube, or I took a cylinder, and then I've put on 100 bars that went around that were 0.4 times 0.2 in the size. So I have the nozzle, the printing height that I wanted to have, and the nozzle size. But the first version didn't work because the slicer, the Prusa slicer, was expecting something like 0.45 as a nozzle size, and I had the 0.4, so I had to redo everything because I couldn't just set the size of the bars that I was putting there. So yeah, it was a lot of copy and pasting after that, and then combining objects, waiting for 123D to finish 123D design, because I'm not using Fusion and I'm still using something that's not supported anymore. But yeah, that was it every question answered?
Yeah, I was going to ask what you're modeling in.
I was gonna say like a hot knife. I haven't used one, but I wonder if that would help get rid of the, I guess, ooze shield, the thing that kind of covers the hair. That might be an interesting thing to look at. A hot knife. It's kind of like this just steel of wire that that
so
gets heated up
around the tube.
It's meant to cut foam. Yeah,
probably.
Yeah, I wonder if that.
I was wondering as well, if you didn't bring the hair like right to the circle, would the stringing of your 3D printer kind of be enough to keep it attached? Well, maybe your 3D printer doesn't have stringing, but I know mine does. So, it's kind of like, the way
have a smaller contact area.
Yeah, the support material that like gets auto-generated isn't as tightly attached as everything else, right?
Well,
so that's how it breaks off. Like, I wonder, could you
Yeah.
do the same?
But you wouldn't go back to the circle and then start from the object again to do the hair. So that would be much more complicated because we would have to add G code to start from there, I guess. Because
Oh,
uh,
yeah. I get you. You just be drawn. Yeah, I get you. Yeah.
I kind of managed it so the slicer was going around the object a bit, then went to the tube, then a bit on the tube and back again. So that kind of worked out for itself.
Yeah.
And before that, I had more hair on the tube than on the Furby, so that was not working for me. So when the second version worked the way I wanted, I was happy with that.
I'm always surprised at how rigid, like a single line of extruded PLA. Are you printing in PLA?
Sure.
I was just assuming.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm always so surprised at how rigid that is, even at that tiny, like 0.4 millimeter line width. When it cools, it's like a bristle.
So,
Oh yeah, it really is.
Like I see
So-
those hairs and I'm like, oh, it's like hair, but I know, from peeling those things, they're like really pokey.
Yeah, you can maybe hear that.
Yeah.
That's a small one. And the big one is
I can see the sound.
It's
ASMR.
like an instrument.
Metal bristles.
yeah.
It's awesome. I look forward to trying to print a Furby myself. That'll be a good
Should be
time.
on Prusa, the forum of Prusa.
Very cool. Very cool. So who would like to share next?
I'll
Go next if you want. Well,
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah, I'll go next because Dave was doing a lot of focusing, which leads me nicely into my.
Okay.
So as you can see, I have an out of focus shot here. I'll even make it more out of focus. But if I twist it here, it comes back into focus.
Oh,
So
this thing, yeah.
yeah. So this is a project I've wanted to make for like years, but I could never figure out how to do the focusing of the webcam part. And I recently came across a library that would allow you to do it on the PC. So it kind of sends like USB driver commands to the web camera. So it technically works for more than the Logitech C920, but that's all I've tested it with. And yeah, so what this one is doing here is there's a server running on my PC, like a piece of Node.js code, and I tried out a couple of different methods for doing this. So this one here is connecting back to my PC using Wi-Fi. So that server is hosting a web server as well, and it's sending commands every time I twist it to like adjust the focus of the web camera. And I can even press a button in and adjust the focus of me. So you can control multiple different cameras. I also tried out using USB serial, and I also did macro commands as well. So Dustin Watts, who I think was on the chat earlier, he's after creating this project. I have nothing to do with it, so I won't show it, but it's for like ESP32 touch screens. It's called the Stream Deck, I think he calls it. Free Deck. Touch Deck. I'm getting confused with all the names. Maybe it's called the Free Touch. You'll find it anyways. But yeah, so it's like that's a touch screen ESP32 device, and he's putting basically macro commands up on it, like an Elegoo or Elgato Stream Deck. Yeah, so it gives you options to control your stream and things like that. So I just wanted to see if you could do the same focusing thing with that Free Touch Deck. That's what it's called. Yeah, I couldn't remember. Yeah, so that's one of the projects that I was working on. So the next thing that I was doing was I finally released my D1 Mini TFT screen shield. So it's a shield for ESP8266 D1 minis, and yeah, it's one of these ST7789 screens, and they're really nice. They're like, the resolution of them is high for an Arduino project, so it's 240 by 240. And what this one is showing here, if it works, is it's connecting to my, I'm going to reset it because it's been a long time since it was actually on. It's connecting to my Spotify account, and it's seeing what song I'm playing, and it's pulling down the album art from it. So I'm not playing anything at the moment, so it probably isn't playing anything. So I'm just going to play this song here. Hopefully it'll go on my Bluetooth headphones, so Liz doesn't get a copyright strike. Will it work now? Possibly not. Might have to come back to it. Is it working?
Maybe press play again. I think it.
Yeah, it might not be playing.
It possibly isn't.
The play button
Yeah.
just.
I just saw a bloop
I
on the
do have
screen.
the
Yeah.
play button there, so I'm just looking at the. Yeah, it's coming now.
Nice.
So
Ah.
let me. So there is the
Ooh.
album art. So
Hey.
that's being pulled down,
Cool.
and like if I change song, it's not particularly fast because it's polling to find out. So like I check like every 10 seconds what's playing, and then if it finds a new song, it needs to go download the image off the Spotify server, and yeah. So yeah, this is a fairly nice kind of thing you can do with these displays or whatever. So the idea would be that you probably put some buttons or something on it. Like there's room for buttons so you could skip songs and things like that. So that is that one. Next up, I have so my Christmas trees. So one of these is not like the other one. Let me fix it with my focus. Yeah, so
Nice.
this is my PCB 3, but I normally pronounce it PCB tree. So PCB with the number 3 at the end. But an Irish thing is we can't pronounce our 3s. So this is a tiny 13 with 12 reverse mounted LEDs. So they're upside down LEDs pointing back into the PCB, and so there's no solder mask or anything there. So it allows it to shine through, and it diffuses it. So it makes a nice little bauble. So I made that one a couple of years ago, and I've been looking to try make that easier to assemble, because these are just regular LEDs upside down, and they're actually quite hard to solder. They're not too bad, but it's definitely not ideal, and you definitely can't pick and place them. And the first year I sold them, I sold a lot of assembled ones, and I was assembling them myself. And like even with practice, it was like 20 minutes to assemble one, which is not ideal whatsoever. So 20 minutes on a good day. So then this is a version that I was working on this month. So this is using I think they're called Z-bend LEDs, or I would call them Z-bends, I think. But so they're a different type of LED that are specifically for reverse mounting. So Liz actually showed them on her channel in her Easy Bake Oven video. So they have like legs coming out of the LEDs that are flat with the pads. So they're much easier to solder, and they could be pick and placed as well. So I just hand soldered these ones, but it was definitely way easier. The negative about them is that these LEDs are about 0.2 cent in like quantities of 1,000. These are about 30 cent in quantities of 1,000. So they're, what's that? Like 100 times more expensive. So there's definitely a significant price difference between them. So that's nice though. It's working out. There's a couple of things that I need to change. Like one of them, I showed it on Twitter here, but so I have a mark on my design to indicate the polarity, and there's a mark on the LED to indicate the polarity. But let me just turn off the thing so you can kind of see it on that one. There's a little gray dot in the corner, and it is different on different color LEDs. So I was on Mouser and I just bought like, okay, there's a blue one, I'll buy that. There's a red one, I'll buy that. And I designed it based on the red data sheet. And when I was installing it, it didn't work right. And I was looking up what was going on. And some of the colors of the LEDs have the polarity marking means one thing, and the same polarity marking on different ones means a different thing. So I actually have to solder them the wrong way around. So that was
frustrating.
That was a bit of a disaster. It actually wasn't as bad as it could have been, because they had two yellows, and I was like, why did they have two yellows? So I bought both yellows, and I was testing it with my multimeter to see which color was better. And I noticed when I was testing it with my multimeter that there was the opposite polarity. And then I already had soldered 9 of the other LEDs on, but yeah. So then the last thing I want to show here is one of these matrix displays, and I ported a version of Tetris onto it. So I'm using an ESP32 using my I2S matrix shield, and I have a nunchuck adapter board that I'll show you in a minute, because it's holding on for dear life. If I turn it around, it'll probably crash the game. So yeah, it's a pretty functioning game of Tetris using the nunchuck. I absolutely love the nunchucks as an input to like Arduino projects. Like, you get an accelerometer, an analog stick, and 2 buttons for, you know, a low price. A lot of people already have nunchucks floating around. And then the other thing is it uses I2C, so, you know, it doesn't use a lot of pins on your microcontrollers. So yeah, it's a pretty nice one. So yeah, there's the shield, just plugs into the board, and then the nunchuck part of it is originally I broke out these pins to use with an accelerometer, and yeah, so this is just a PCB that has the same shape as the accelerometer, GY521 accelerometer, and then it just has the nunchuck pads either side of the board, and 1.6 millimeter PCB is pretty much a perfect fit for the nunchuck. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I think that was all I wanted to show.
That is so cool. I literally just pulled a box out of my closet the other day that had all of our Wii stuff packed in it. I pulled it out and I was like, God, this thing is so great. We got to use this for something. That board is awesome.
Yeah, so I'll share a link to it somewhere. But I designed like a really simple adapter board on Ashpark, and uploaded it to Ashpark. So it's literally just that connector that goes into the nunchuck controller, and then has like 4 header pins coming out of it. But like, it's crazy the cost of it, because it's so small. It's like $1 delivered for 3 of them. Like, it's literally cheaper than buying them from China. Like, and I even messaged Ashpark. I was like, are you okay with me sharing this? Like, there's no way you're making money from this, like, if you're shipping it to me internationally. And they're like, yeah, no, share it away. I was like, okay, cool. Yeah. So yeah, so that's that. Yeah, and I think I also have a footprint on Easy EDA that like people can import into their project if they search for nunchuck, and like it just gives you the outline, so you know you can bring it into a different type of PCB. Like, I have a feather wing with the nunchuck sticking out of it too. I haven't actually done anything with it, but there's like 50 of them back there somewhere. But yeah, no, I really like the nunchucks as an input device, and it also works with other weird like Nintendo things. Like, so say like the DJ Hero controller, or all those type of things are also I2C. So anything that plugged into the bottom of your Wii controller before is potentially usable as well. So it's pretty fun.
That's so awesome, because you go to a thrift store and those are like filling up the electronics bins.
Yeah, exactly.
And the Guitar Hero controllers
Yep.
were, yeah.
Yeah, same. Like the library I was using, I think on Arduino CTRL extension or something like that, has like examples for the different controllers. Like a NES Classic controller is the same type of thing, and like, and as I said, because it's I2C, like even it should be easy to port to anything or connect to like a Raspberry Pi or whatever. It shouldn't be any issue with it. But yeah.
Very cool. And that focus thing for the webcams, that's magical.
I literally have wanted this. For so long. I've looked into it before, couldn't figure it out, and I asked on Twitter a few weeks ago, and people are like, "This has to exist," but nobody linked me to anything. But they're saying it has to exist, so I said, okay, I'm going to give it one last try. So I actually didn't search on Google. I searched on GitHub for like C920, and I found a Node.js project that was for controlling the web camera, and then like it was super cool as well that there was a bug with the adjusting the focus, and like I mentioned it to the guy who did the project, and like within an hour he had it fixed. I was like, oh, this is so nice when you find someone like find a project that you need, and the guy is like super responsive too. So yeah, like the code for that is available on my GitHub now. The 3 examples that I was talking about with the macro keypad. So like you could bind it to just your regular keyboard even. So, do Control Shift Alt up focuses it or defocuses it or whatever. Yeah, no, like I definitely find it really useful even now. So no more holding my hand up to the thing.
Yeah. That's great. No shade, Dave. No shade.
I don't have a second camera that's fancy over my head here somewhere. So
this is like my this is an IKEA lamp with a GoPro heads that cost like $1 on it that connects to my camera. So that is my fancy camera setup. 2 C920s.
OBS to connect both cameras into your stream that you're doing right now.
Yes, that is a plugin for OBS called Virtual Camera. Yeah. Okay, cool. Switch between the two.
Even the fade, very fancy. So, Timon, would you like to present what you've been working on?
Yeah, I guess I have a similar year as Sophie and Dave. I had a hard time working on something like long-term, big project kind of stuff. Like I have, my tablet from last year, which I still get back to, but I didn't really work on that. And I guess I can start with like one small thing that I did a couple of weeks ago. I think it was a weekend project. I CNC milled a bottle opener because I always had this old, nice bottle opener that I kind of lost. And I kind of missed having a nice bottle opener. It's nice to open like your favorite drink with a good bottle opener. And I designed this in Fusion and milled it with the small PCB mill behind my back out of 2 pieces of wood and some brass, and glued it together. Yeah, it's a nice object to have.
Pretty.
Really slick looking.
And yeah, I think I did a couple of these kind of small things, mostly for myself. Often I design projects for like with a higher purpose or something, or like a producty kind of thing. And I think this year I did a lot of more small things just for myself. Some of them I didn't really publish. But I started to find some more motivation a couple weeks ago. Like my job was really stressful this year, and that kind of stopped now, and I found more more time and more brain power to work on stuff again. So when the compute module came out, the Pi 4 compute module, I built this small breakout for that. And there was also a small weekend project. And the goal there was to, like, when I started out with the whole tablet thing, all this high speed, HDMI impedance matching kind of stuff always felt like black magic voodoo to me. And it's really hard to learn what's important and what's not important. And it always felt to me like this is this high-end stuff where you need to spend hundreds of dollars on very expensive PCBs. And I had to slog through all of that. And I learned at the end, this is much easier than it looks. And you don't need fancy PCBs. This is one copper layer, no vias, and we have HDMI on here, we have USB, all high-speed signals, and they all work. And I just wanted to show the people this needs 10 components, and you have your compute module running up. That there's not that much to this, so more people maybe feel empowered to try it out at least. And one user on Twitter actually did that. It was really cool. They took my design files and made their own variant of it and ordered it, and it works. And they are happy that they can also do this, which was really cool.
That's awesome.
And Mark just said that he was inspired by your stuff as well. You just finished it. Mark Olson in chat.
Oh, sorry. Thanks, Mark. That's I like that. And I feel a lot of people, I was at this point too, feel intimidated by it, but there's no reason to be intimidated by these things, I feel. And I will hopefully make at some point a video about all of this to give you a TLDR of what's the minimum that you need to do all of this high-speed stuff. So people feel like they can go past microcontrollers, And I feel the system on the modules, like the compute module, are cool for that. Because it's one layer before going full, getting the system on chip and RAM and stuff, which is of course a little bit more complicated, I guess. Which leads me to my next very recent project, which is a secret sneak preview for next week. So I've been working on a proper board for the compute module 4, and this is inspired by a very small comment by Scott I think 1 or 2 weeks ago. He said when I was on the show and tell of Adafruit, that somebody should just make a Metro form factor or Arduino Uno form factor board with the compute module 4, and it seemed kind of silly to me at first, but it actually fits really well. I don't have the model loaded in right now, but it just, here you can see the connectors. It barely fits. You can see the outline.
Nice.
And I kind of like the idea because you get so you can do USB device mode on the Pi 4. So you can just connect it to a computer and it will show up as a device, depending on what driver you load. So it can be an Ethernet adapter, or can you go like a USB serial connection kind of thing, similar to a normal dev board, like an Arduino Uno or a Metro board. And so I tried to stay as in that vein. So it has a little quick connector here, or a STEMQT, little button that's still in weird colors, where you can switch between device and host. Unfortunately, the Pi 4's compute module only has one USB. And I did want to have HDMI on there. So I gave it the option that if you want to use HDMI, you can just switch it over to use a USB-A port and hook up a keyboard, if you want that. And I find it kind of cool that full-size HDMI fits on here, because I was giving the Pi people a bit of a hard time for switching to micro HDMI, which I really don't like, because you always need an adapter for every device. And on this, it's much smaller than a normal Pi. whatever.
consider
They have.
the-
It was difficult for them, I guess. Sorry.
Did you consider the connectors around it? Like, I mean, there's not that much space between the sockets, the USB and the HMI.
Yeah,
There's
yeah. They all fit. Like I tested that. Like I measured a lot of devices that I have around, like different cables that you can plug in a very chunky HDMI cable, very chunky HDMI USB-A cable, and still power without blocking it. And here are some API 102 LEDs for fun, so you can do a bit of blinky. Here's a button. I don't have a 3D model for that hearing. And for the very enthusiastic people on the back side, also not 3D models for that, but here is footprint for a camera connector, which is the same size as the one on the Pi. And this is for an M2 connector. So you have PCI Express on there too, so you can have like a little SSD in there, or I don't know, whatever M2 card you fancy. And that M2 connector is the reason for this monstrosity here. I added another USB connector there because I found out that SSDs draw a lot of power. They can draw up to like 12 watts. And even if you have like attach a USB-C laptop here, which has 5 volt, 3 amps, that's just 15 watts. Plus, a Pi can also draw up to 10 watts or so. So I just put it on there for like everyone populated by default, I think. But I feel a lot of people are interested in the PCI stuff, so that's why here you get the these SMD mount threaded insert thingies. That's why you have a little hole here on the other side. SD card and ADC, so you have the analog inputs as well. That's the thing, and I want to see how.
I love how Clem or Meyer Makes in the chat is making the point that it's a very good one. You did not want to do huge projects. Like, what's this? This seems pretty big.
I know it took 2 days or so that's okay.
I can't wait. What's the first shield you're going to use with this?
I have no idea. I mean, most of the legacy stuff is all 5 volts for like the Uno. So I don't know if Adafruit made some stuff. I didn't really see it for where I find where this is like a niche thing that the Pi can't really show, and maybe I should show. You have let me disable the polygons here. Oh Jesus, slow. There's silk screen for all your inputs. And that's something the Pi, for example, does not have. You always have to look up online what's the pinout, and then count individual pins to find the correct one. And like if you actually want to do electronics with a Pi, it's not a great board, to be honest. It's not very user-friendly. And I think it's kind of cool to have the Pi, like the power of the Pi in a more dev board friendly, like electronics dev board friendly way. And just hook up wires with like individual labels, what where is, and it's easy to make a little shield have to have the whole I have to do a bit of software for this, but like have it easy to where you can just hook it up to like a USB port on your computer, and it becomes up like a CircuitPython device, and you can just use CircuitPython with this, but it's a Pi, and have all the power of that. I don't know if it's really useful. We'll see. The board comes next week, Tuesday, I think. So, see if that works out.
Pretty cool.
Bitlooney thinks it's $1 million Kickstarter project, so get kickstarted.
Because it's the two things together, Arduino and the Pi. I'm calling it the Pionara for now.
You gave it a pretty convincing pitch about the not being labeled and stuff. Like, there you go, done. Kickstarter. $1 million.
Scott was asking. It's a 4-layer board. Mostly like the additional. Oh, why is this so slow? All of the additional circuitry for the M2 and stuff that takes a lot of space, and if you want to do like these high-speed signals properly, you need at least 4 layers, not because of the more space, but because on a 4-layer PCB, like the first and the second layer are very, very tight together, and that makes it quite a lot easier to do impedance matching. Yeah, that's why 4 layers, but 4 layers are so cheap now. I think JLC currently sells them also for $2. So yeah, it's no question to just go 4 layers nowadays.
That's a tense board, though. Looking at it,
it looks more intimidating than this. It's like, I don't know, crossword puzzles. Like you start somehow and you find your way, and then you try again and find another way. It's
But I think there's something really valuable about it being a merging of these two different things. For people who've only worked in one, to see something that kind of bridges between them, it feels like your knowledge will transfer more. It feels like an easier way to cross that bridge. I think that's really valuable.
Yeah, I think if I do the software part too, that you don't have to like fiddle too much with the Linux side in the beginning, maybe, where it's like automatically a serial port where you can interact with CircuitPython or so. Mass storage, like if it's similar to like current dev ports, yeah, totally, I see that.
I mean, I think even just visually, like when you look at something and you initially can understand something without having to read about it, it's not so esoteric. The second you lay eyes on it, it's so much easier to just start, to just try, because it doesn't feel like a huge foreign thing that you're looking at.
Yeah, that's a good point. I haven't thought about that though, like that. Yeah, let's see. I think, hopefully on Tuesday, depending on how DHL and FedEx feel like this week, but hopefully soon. That's awesome.
Very cool. Yeah. And I think there's something in the air right now about fusing like Arduino and Pi things together, because the board I just looked at, the at Mega Zero, is the Pi Zero form factor, but it has a 32S2 chip on it. So you can do
cool.
Arduino things right in the same form factor. Yeah,
I think Scott had that idea floating around to run CircuitPython on this bare metal. Not sure how motivated he really is to do that, but that would be really cool.
That would be amazing.
No Linux, just like the raw CPU power just for CircuitPython, nothing else.
I'd sign me up for that. Cool. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. So I'll just talk quickly about the stuff I'm working on. My camera battery actually just died, but so I'll do the hold up. So right now I'm working with Nay on this kind of IoT advent calendar with MagTag, which is a new Adafruit e-ink display. And he designed this lovely stand, looks like a sleigh. And I discovered the other night that I can put this lovely cat sitting in it. It's like the cat's on the sleigh. Yeah, it's a feature. So basically this like connects to the internet once a day and grabs the new dates, and the tree will slowly populate with the ornaments. And then the thing I've done most recently is using an Easy Bake Oven as a solder reflow oven. So these are the little blinky boards. They're using the reverse mount LEDs.
Yeah, you're in the group right. Still. We want to see your projects.
Okay, 1 second. There we go. So the blinky boards, and they're using the reverse mount LEDs that Brian was talking about. And actually, it was like Brian working on his PCB tree PCBs and everything, and stuff that Twinkle Twink that I think is in the chat, like that kind of stuff with the PCB art. That is why I designed these boards in the first place. I wanted to like try getting that effect. So yeah, that's kind of like the story behind that, because it's back when people were still doing events and badges and things. So I was going to try my hand at that, but maybe 2021.
It's a good point to start now for a badge.
Yeah. Actually, a lot of folks kind of mentioned like 2020 it was kind of hard to keep motivation up with everything, and I definitely felt that too. So I think maybe if we could kind of chat about what we're looking forward to in 2021, as like there's hopes of a vaccine and other joyous things in the States. We have a new president coming in, so kind of what.
That's a bad choice. Luckily.
But yeah, so maybe if folks want to kind of chat about what they're looking forward to, projects or otherwise.
Yeah, so for me, it's funny. Like a lot of my like lack of, productivity or whatever in 2020, I think it was a lot more to do with like moving than the actual pandemic. But I guess because of the pandemic, we didn't have like any, we weren't able to get help from like our family and stuff to do it. So it ended up like everything was on us. And so that definitely slowed things down. So one thing I'm really looking forward to is just having babysitters again, and like being able to like, here, you take them for a little while and we will do stuff or sleep or anything. So that's I'm definitely looking forward to that in 2021. The other thing that I really missed in 2020 was at the start of 2020, I was like, this is going to be the year where I'm going to go to events and see lots of people. I went to Hanover Maker Faire with Dave Darko and a few of the other people in the chat, and I really enjoyed it, but I didn't get long enough there. So I was like, this time I'm going to spend so long there. Like, as in, I had booked my flights to Berlin Maker Faire. It was on like a weekend, and I was flying the Tuesday before it, so I could just be there, and annoy Dave for a week. And I was going to Belgrade, the Hackaday thing in Belgrade, and same kind of thing, staying for an extra couple of days with BitLooney. And I was probably going to go to SuperCon, and I was just like, ruined. But I did get refunded for all that stuff, so that's not too bad, I guess. But I would really like to do that sort of stuff again. Definitely would like that.
Same. I had everything booked for Open Hardware Summit, which was Friday, March 13th, which is when everything basically shut down in the States. And I booked that in like August 2019, like really early. And as I was booking, I was like, risky to book something so far in advance, and it being Friday the 13th. That feels like it might be a bad omen. I didn't realize how bad it would be, but so that was unfortunate. I was also going to spend extra time in New York City, and I was also considered there's that other convention that happens in, I think, Portland, Oregon, for hardware. I'm sorry? Teardown, yeah. I was hoping to go to that too this year, but yeah. So definitely go into events.
I had tickets booked already.
Yeah. So I'm hoping to maybe, if all goes well, events again would be nice.
Yeah. Actually, at the beginning of, at the end of last year, I was like, next year, I want to do more events. I want to do more speaking. I want to do more like talking about my work from a design perspective. So I really want to like focus on that. So next year, 2020, I am just going to do conferences. So I set up all these conferences I was going to go to. I booked a whole bunch that I was going to speak at. And I actually I've always wanted to speak at a design conference called FITC. And I got it. I was gonna speak at FITC in Toronto, and then the pandemic. So like all of my plans for the whole year just like reset. And it wasn't that bad in the beginning once I realized what was happening. Like I was like, well, I just have to make a new plan.
Right.
And I think like for me this year, I'm a really optimistic person, and I'm a really positive person, and I held on to that for so long this year. And eventually it just was so much. I think like I was doing a lot of compartmentalizing to keep going and to get through things. And I was just, figuring like I'm gonna have my emotional response to this situation later because I need to focus on like some really important stuff. Like my parents live nearby and they're both in the like really high risk range for COVID. So I was like, okay, my husband and I were like, we're going to do whatever we need to do to keep them protected. And that was kind of our focus for this whole year. So a lot of my personal stuff, I really have had to kind of reprioritize. And I'm so glad that we did that because we were able to sleep at night this year, knowing that we were giving my parents like the best chance of making it through this. And they're both, not sick, knock on wood, we can keep that going. But it's like, for me, I just wasn't thinking about what the emotional cost was to me to do all these things because I was like, well, I'm going to do it anyway, so I might as well just have my feelings later. But I think it turns out you can only compartmentalize for so long. And then I think for me, like election night was like, that's it. That was really it. That was like literally the day on my calendar. I can look back and I'm like, yeah, that's when I ran out. And then like for the weeks after that in the States, for a lot of us, we were so like, this whole year has been stressful, but the week of the election was the most stress ever. Like it was so much. But I think it was kind of good to like have that point for me because I think like blowing that valve was like really important because now I feel like I can like get back to making things and like I think the lesson that I learned is you can't shut it off completely and you can't separate it all because it'll find a way to come out. So yeah.
Sure.
Thank goodness for projects because I don't think I would have made it through this year without projects, but it's not enough.
Yeah, and cats too.
Yeah.
I wish I had a cat.
I had a very similar thing where I was definitely compartmentalizing like that and just going along. And then I work in education and it was the summer that really just, I was not really a person. Because I was talking at night about it actually this past week. I was like, we worked on like a lot of projects together, but during that time, but I wrote the code, but like I didn't make actual videos about it for my channel. I didn't have the energy. Like I was writing the code and be like, oh cool, it works, how nice. And then I didn't really have the energy to do anything else because it was just, the pandemic was just too much in my face at that point. It was just, yeah, you couldn't really ignore it or like, oh yeah, I have a mask on, but everything's fine, I'm sure. So yeah, but, and then it's kind of been post-election similar. I've kind of gotten the ability to get back on it, and so I did the easy bake oven and I was able to do that. And yeah, so
yeah, I'm surprised that I finally actually made a video on my YouTube channel, like
which was so amazing, by the way.
Thank you. It's been like almost a year, I think, since I made a video and like uploaded one that way. I mean, I've done some other things like live streaming here and there, but like I actually, it's so weird because I think of the election as being like such a horrible moment, like it's such an awfully stressful week. But like after that, I actually was able, and this whole year I was like, I really want to make another video. I really want to make another video. And it's so weird that I like finally did it, you know? So I needed to be like rattled out of my cage maybe.
Yeah. You kind of need that moment to be like, okay, I'm back. Now I can do the things.
It's interesting that so many of you wanted 2020 to be like your travel year, because it was the same for me. I had an event for every month lined up, basically. I wanted to go to Teardown, I wanted to go to Hack Day Belgrade, the Maker Faire Berlin, SuperCon, Chaos Congress, a bunch of hacker camps in Europe. Like I wanted to do all of the stuff, you know, and because I kind of got the taste for it last year, the 2019, 2019 last year, and that was the best part. Like meeting actually people like from the community, and I really miss that, like the whole like connecting with the community, and like it's not about the talks in this conference. It's always about like meeting in the hallway with someone talking, and I think the community definitely helped me through this year. Like it's like you say, projects and like everyone in this community. I'm quite grateful that I'm part of that, and I think that definitely helped me get through this mess.
Yeah, like the Adafruit show and tell every week was definitely like a good touch point for me too. I would kind of try to have something ready to show for Wednesdays, and that was a good way of kind of keeping me like my head above water a little. Like, okay, that's coming Wednesday. I should work on this little thing to show that. So that was good. I'm glad they continued it during this whole time, even when they were shut down.
Yeah, they really powered through.
Yeah. And now he's probably a little too modest, but I do want to point out that he printed like a ton of face shields that were used in New York City during the first surge, which is amazing.
A lot of folks did. It was really interesting to see. I hadn't ever seen a project like that where so many designs were coming out. Like every single day there was new stuff. So that was really, really nice to see and contribute to that. It was like kind of the highlights too. It was like, wow, kind of helped a little bit there. So that was really nice.
Yeah, also have why our hackerspace printed them. Like everyone in Germany basically who had a 3D printer finally had a cause for it.
Yeah.
Valuable reason to have a 3D printer at home is to print face shields.
Yeah.
I thought it was really eye-opening as well how like slow general manufacturing can be in terms of like I never thought there would be a situation where 3D printers would be used for mass manufacturing. Like I just thought that would never happen because it's too slow.
With the year, it kind of proves like, hey, you got enough printers, you could print them all night. It's
Yeah,
but I mean, it kind of shows that the issue for all of this, it's not actually the manufacturing itself, but like the logistics of getting it to people.
Yes.
And the big pro for the printer was it's just, in the neighborhood. So I think that was the part that really made them shine.
Yeah, it was like
the distribution.
And it was a non-specific tool. So like you could create new designs, you could innovate on those designs, you could immediately get them to people. And, to Brian's point, like to retool a factory, I never thought about how difficult that would be to retool an entire factory, like not just for making masks, but for all kinds of different PPE, even like sewing the fabric stuff. Actually, in Seattle, I used to work at the costume shop at Seattle Opera, and we saw this. I just like witnessed this crazy, amazing thing happen where it was really unfortunate. I mean, obviously, at the beginning of the pandemic, when all the arts organizations realized they weren't going to be able to do any performances, and so they canceled all their seasons. And a lot of people I know in the costume industry, they lost their jobs. They all got laid off, which is it's kind of a standard cycle that in between shows, theater professionals kind of get laid off in between shows until they go into the next show.
Yeah.
But this was like everybody got laid off at the same time. So it was all of these skilled people who, they're really skilled designers, sewers, skilled makers. They all got laid off from their jobs and all the equipment was being unused. And then they realized there was this need for PPE. So the costume professionals in Seattle got together and they created this nonprofit organization to sew masks. And they were sewing masks with, legit PPE material that they were sourcing. They were sewing them in the opera costume shop, which is like, 15 industrial sewing machines, all of the equipment that you need to actually crank out an entire show of like 400 costumes. And they had them all going like round the clock making PPE. And it was just like, it's amazing. It's like, wow, these professionals who are now on unemployment, when everybody's on unemployment at the same time, and they're just going to jump right back in and start sewing PPE. So I just am telling everyone right now, like when this is over, please support the arts. Like,
yeah,
they're so desperate.
They've been hit so hard.
Yeah.
I agree. So I think we'll kind of end with Q&A from the chat. But while the bits and bytes are catching up, if folks want to kind of go in the circle on where you can find what you've been working on. So we'll go kind of clockwise, start with Timon.
You can mostly find me on Twitter on Timon Sku. That is Timon and then SKU. And on YouTube, I hopefully will do more videos next year. So on the Professor Sparkles, I think it's in the description. And on Hackett.io, it's Professor Fat Sparkles, where you can find like write-ups of my projects.
Cool. And
Yeah, so I guess Adafruit YouTube, you can find stuff there. Adafruit's Learn System, and I guess, yeah, Twitter and Instagram. I kind of go between the two. I'm at Ekin, so folks can see all the behind the scenes stuff there.
Cool. And Brian?
Yeah, so sometimes I release videos on Brian Locke YouTube channel. I haven't released one in a while. Somebody was even asking, like, was I okay? At one stage, I was like, wow, I really need to release a video. Twitter as well, which is a completely different name. Witness Me Now. For some reason, I picked that name when I was like 14, and that was my internet name from here on in. And then also on my Discord, which you can find through the YouTube channel. Yeah, thanks.
And I'm at Sophie Wong on Twitter. I'm at Sophie Wong Makes on Instagram. And I have a YouTube channel also, which I think that is Sophie Wong Makes also. But yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Whenever I share something, it's also on Twitter. So just find me under Dave Darko on Twitter. Why do we? Yeah, at Dave Darko. Why the existential crisis? Why the? Anyway, Liz.
Then people can yell at you.
Yes, yell at.
Yeah. And of course, you can find me here and on the Twitter and the Instagram, Blitz City DIY. So, not seeing any questions. I think we have amazed them with all of our chatting. There's no questions left.
There's plenty of no quiz questions.
I didn't have the energy to do a quiz.
Fair, very fair.
That's
and the
very
last
fair.
time I did a quiz, everyone got mad. So
What? No.
It was a very good quiz, but
got
yeah.
mad.
I don't think
so
It
mad.
revealed some hard truths about people, I think.
It did, and yeah.
I wasn't
Okay.
on it, so I didn't know the answer to nearly any of those questions. But in my defense, if any of the questions were asked about like famous male scientists and things, I wouldn't have a clue either. So, yeah.
A likely story.
Very likely. Yeah, you may notice when I host MakerCast, I never do quizzes either because I hate coming up with quizzes. So I always try to do something not a quiz. Like I'm trying to
I can relate with
introduce
that.
like different stuff into it.
Fair.
Although we did have that time where I had to find the weirdest thing you could make a project from on
yes.
AliExpress. That went a little bit not suitable.
Well,
for work.
sorry, but it was a nice idea.
it was fun.
That was Bitlooney's fault.
Yeah.
Just throw that out there.
Just imagine me doing a quiz after 2.5 hours of streaming. Or 3. Yeah, 4 hours of MakerCast. No. Yeah.
Hold on.
Oh,
Target
so-
wants to know, Liz, what your favorite butter is.
I saw a lot of butter stuff going on in the chat. I don't know what that is all about, but I guess peanut butter.
Either.
Nope.
Good answer.
Peanut
That's-
butter.
yeah.
No, I won't
That's
accept that.
Oh.
Right, yeah, I mean, nut butters count. Oh,
Yeah.
Peanut butter, Irish butter.
Yeah, you see, in Ireland, Irish butter is just butter. Like, we would not consider peanut butter butter. Like, if you ask, could I get butter on my toast, and somebody brought you peanut butter, there would be
No, of course.
trouble.
I think that's probably a thing everywhere.
Although my
Okay.
daughter does call it yellow butter to distinguish it from peanut butter. Okay.
Oh. Okay.
So we skipped 2 good questions for the
Oh.
butter question, I guess.
Oh, I I hadn't looked at the questions that had come in. I apologize. So scrolling up, is anyone releasing a special Christmas project this year that they are still working on? I am working on this one with Nay, which is the IoT connected advent calendar. I think we're doing it this week. So that'll be out. And then
I'm working on the Christmas tree, but I do not plan to release it this year. So I'm starting really early for next year.
Excellent.
This sign's interesting because it's kind of like whatever holiday or any message. So that's nice. So I'm not too worried about it coming out with it like at the end of December. That's when it's going to come out. That's fine. Folks can use it for the new year or for whenever something else happens. So I'm not too worried about it, but that's the one that'll come out. It's kind of daunting because how do you document a woodworking project? I don't know. So I got to figure that out. Lots of photos. Mm-hmm. That's for sure.
The only other thing that I would like to do, I don't know if I will do it, is so I've put up a lot of Christmas lights, just regular fairy lights, and I'd like to have a way of controlling them using an Arduino, so you could put a timer on them or control them with your phone or things like that. And I'm pretty sure I'd know how to do it or different ways of doing it, but it might be interesting to kind of do something like that. My favorite approach would be to use those remote control sockets and control them with the Arduino, because then you're not I do not want to use a relay. That is that's my limit. I don't want to mess with mains whatsoever. So if you're doing the remote control socket, then you're pretty golden. But maybe you do a big MOSFET on the DC side either. But so maybe, but I probably won't make a video about it being realistic, just because it's 3 weeks till Christmas. So not happening.
I discovered some RGB fairy lights, and I ordered them 4 weeks ago. And today I checked where it could be, and it said that it was delivered 2 weeks ago to my place, and that's just not true. So there's not going to be a Christmas project from me. Because I was planning to hang them on the window and then have a little LED matrix, or it's a very big LED matrix. But no LED matrix window for Dave because no LEDs.
I'm sorry.
It is sad.
Yeah, December is usually when I realize it would have been nice to do a Christmas project, but I would have had to start it in October. And October, I'm usually I should have started a Halloween project in September. The festive, the holiday stuff it's just hard to be on that schedule. You have to think about it so far in advance.
Yeah, that actually ties into
it works.
Yeah, the
well.
cupcake's good.
It's it's the perfect thing. It's something you learn something new. You got that new thing you learned. Plus, it's a simple thing that you can print and you can share it to everybody. So it's hitting those triangles, those 3 points.
Yeah, and I feel like a cupcake is timeless.
It's true.
I can make use of this all year, maybe.
It's almost dinner time here, so I'm cupcake.
I think I used a lot of cupcakes this year.
I don't know if it's just Pedro or if you're the same Noe, but you put up your Christmas tree November 1st, is it?
Yeah, November 1st. That's you kind of have to do that when you're I need to have a Christmas tree set up for the shot. That and the kids love doing it early, so the kids are all about it. The sister-in-law loves it too. So
wasn't it technically October 30th this year that you did it?
Was it? Maybe it was. It was almost before Halloween. Yeah. It's getting earlier and earlier every year, but I'm kind of used to it. So
I have to fight with my wife to delay it a little bit.
No.
We're not too different in terms of we're probably about 2 weeks in the difference, or maybe even 1. But I would put it up 1st of December, but she would put it up middle of November. Be happy enough with that. But the first time I made the Christmas tree, I was ordering them in early November, and people were that's too late for Americans. And then I was looking at your Twitter, I was maybe they're right.
Yeah, it's kind of bazonkers here in the States when you go into like September and there's like Halloween parties and Christmas parties like in September. It's like, oh, okay. I guess
Yeah.
if you're trying to do a festive thing, yeah, it's just sooner the better. So
When do you take them down then?
Some
January 1st? No. I don't know, but we'll post it for sure. Why not?
I usually
Yeah.
take mine down like mid-January, but I don't put mine up till the day after Thanksgiving. So it's usually like probably like a couple days before December 1st.
I'm
Yeah,
still
there's a-
taking my Halloween decorations down. I really invested in my Halloween decorations this year, and I love them so much. I found like this. I found actually a Halloween wreath,
Oh,
and I feel like wreaths are Christmassy. So I think I'm gonna leave that thing up all the way through to next year. It has like skulls in it and like
go.
eyeballs in it. It is definitely a Halloween thing, but
It's Tim
I-
Burton's Halloween. It's like,
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
get a few Santa
Yeah.
hats.
I don't know. I'm really feeling the Halloween stuff, so I'm gonna stretch it out as long as possible.
So a funny 2020 wreath story. I have like a 3D printed Lego wreath on my door, and I swap the decorations on it depending on the season. So I have these little like red studs that are like hollies on it. And I, with everything that happened in the spring, all of a sudden it was like the end of April, and I looked and I was like, oh, I still have my Christmas wreath up. And then I like, more time went by and it was like midsummer. I was like, oh, the Christmas wreath is still up. So I ended up just leaving it up, and now it's appropriate. So I was right on time
Perfect.
with it. But yeah, that was a casualty of 2020. Dave, you had a question. Could you do the 3D printed Furby hair trick with TPU to make it softer?
That's on the list. I have TPU here,
Okay.
but I have a I only have the Prusa Mini here, and it's my go-to just print something and be fine printer right now. So when I put in TPU, I have this strange feeling of I could get a jam and maybe I have to take it apart again, and I'm a bit shy.
confused to the bed. No. It's,
So yeah.
That is interesting though, because like it would flop. I don't know if you would need that hair dryer step.
Oh yeah. Does it
That
even work?
It might just kind of flop down for you already. That might be interesting.
Yes.
Experiments.
Put it in the easy bake and see if
Yeah. This weird alien blob gets pulled out.
Maybe someone should make that, kind of like a reflow oven, but it's for reflowing PLA, like 3D printed. You just read your thing
like you
after
could
you
what's that,
and then
annealing the PLA.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, like a PLA like kiln or something.
Did you see there's a few people who've been doing annealing with PLA where they like bake it in something like salt and it smooths it out.
Yeah, CNC Kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's fun.
CNC Kitchen. did
That
that,
is
Baking in
so
salt,
cool
okay.
looking. I mean, I think he's getting really varied results, but it's super interesting to see all the different things that he's trying. And I think I'm kind of following that. I think it's cool.
I'll have to check that out. I haven't
Check it
seen
out,
it
yeah,
yet.
it's cool.
Yeah. He always does very interesting experiments with all the different materials.
Yeah.
Well, that looks to be about it for questions. So I think we'll wrap it up. Well, thank you all for being on today. And thank everyone in the chat for watching live. I hope you all have a safe and healthy holiday, because we need to stick around to 2021 for the good things that will be coming. So thank you, and have a good one.
Thank you. Thanks everybody.
Thank you all.
Bye folks.
Bye.